All right. Good morning, everyone. Last week when Kevin told me that I was doing the class, I really wasn't joking back there when I had no clue. Ronnie does give me a call like a couple months ago and let me know that, if I wanted to do this class, but I never marked the date down, and so I was shocked. So I had a few days to prepare. Wow, this is extremely loud. All right. So one thing just kept popping into my head when I had a conversation with a coworker of mine, and she's 8 months pregnant, I believe, and she's in a relationship with another coworker, and I haven't seen the guy in about 3 months. So I asked her, because there's a lot of rumors of why he hasn't been there. I asked her, where is he? I haven't seen him in a long time. And she kind of looked at me with a very sad face and, without giving me too much details, because, she had invited me to the baby shower, and I didn't show up. And I told her, the reason why, my son came down. I explained the situation with my son, and she kind of saw a relief in her face because now she can relate to someone because her boyfriend's going through the same exact problem. And she was telling me that he's in a deep depression and he's hearing voices in his head and stuff like that. And he kept telling himself that he's not worthy to be a father and this and that. And she just was explaining all this stuff to me, and I'm like, this is more common, than I thought. My son deals with a lot of the same issues, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, always worrying about things, and that's the same thing he was dealing with. So they put him on a lot of medications, and if you don't notice or you're not paying attention, all those medications come with a laundry list of side effects. I love how they make the commercials, they make the drugs seem so great. And then at the end, they're trying to jam all the things that are wrong with them really fast, and if you sit there and you pay attention, I'm like, wow, that's actually worse than what you're going over there for to get the medication. Your thoughts of suicide, diarrhea, advance your depression, all these things. I'm like, you're going in there to get antidepressant medicine, and you're coming out with a lot worse than you went in there for. So they got him on these new drugs and stuff like that. It says it pepped him up a little bit, and he's kind of snapping out of it a little bit, but he's dealing with the side effect part of it. So that's what I was thinking about the last couple of days. Is, I wanted to talk to him and stuff like that, but he hasn't been around. Because I dealt with it through my son, and he just needs someone to talk to, and he just feels alone. But a lot of us can get into that area because there's so many things going on around us, around this world, personally, and just things in general. You guys want to name a few things that are going on that can get you in this state? Jim? The war? War? especially if you have family members in that area. Or yeah. Sickness. Bruce?
I'd say the attack on the church. Basically, the decline of, I'm hearing it every day, well, not every day, often, about the numbers of people going to church is declining rapidly.
So you mentioned two things that happens around you, okay? One, a war that we have no control of, okay? Declining numbers around the churches, okay? And people getting sick and a lot of disease and stuff like that. You see people passing away. We've already been through like numerous people passing away, passing on due to disease. And, if you start dwelling on these things, you can get into a very down, very sad mode. And if you don't snap out of it, it can take you to a depressive state. Bruce?
I'm just going to mention there's an awful lot of natural disasters globally recently as well.
A lot of natural disasters, the earthquakes and stuff like that. All these things surround us on a daily basis. But what about personal? Stress. Who doesn't go through stress? I have a very high demanding job. Okay? They want numbers. They want results. And your enthusiasm, your attitude towards it doesn't always transpire to the crew that's under you. And as long as they're getting paid, they really don't care. And it's not like that for me. If I have that attitude, as long as I'm getting paid, I don't care either. It doesn't work that way. They want results, always want, especially in retail, it's just demanding. And if you have a good year, you got to top it off. If you have another good year, you got to top it off. And they're always adding percentages that they want you to go up. And I tell myself, how far can I go up? I'm so high up right now. The only thing I see is going down. I can't go any higher. But somehow, through God's grace, I look at the numbers. I'm always up, and I'm like, okay. But there is going to come a time that you're not always going up. That's just the way it is. What goes up must comes down, right? So you think about things like that. Your stress, the pressures at work, pressures in life. Name a few.
Support your family. Your job not always is questionable. Support your family if you don't have a job.
You start worrying about how you're going to support your family. That's not good. What else? Retirement. Something I never think about. Which you should be, but I just don't think about it because it's mind-boggling the numbers you're supposed to have at a certain age. And if you don't get that number, you start getting a little depressed. Yes, Jim? The economy? Not to, they keep telling you it's okay, then it slides, and it's okay, and it's like, you can tell when something's going good or not. And people losing jobs and stuff like that, or replacing them with jobs that didn't pay as good as what they were doing before, you can see it. It's all over the place. Yes, Maria?
I just thinking of the laws that are passed that are against the Bible.
Name one. Name one that just, top of your head. You know any law that really affects us right now?
The law that was passed
In all 50 states? Legal in all 50 states? Jim?
There's so much in it that's going on politically in this country that is stepping over the bounds and it's dividing us as a people. That can be pretty troublesome.
And you can see it. It started with they fight in a state, then it spread pretty fast. That now it's legal in all 50 states.
Just to say, the other day when Matthew came to cut the grass,
Mm-hmm.
he brought his friend, I forgot his name, he came to me and he says, what do you think is gonna happen to us? God is gonna destroy us, because he was worried about the law that was just passed. So he's a Christian man, and he was told he wanted to know what he should do. So I told him to talk to the elders of the church.
What can the elders do about the Supreme Court?
Just to talk so that.
Just to let it out. Basically, you know, like I was saying about my friend, he should talk to someone and, you know, just express your concerns and you know, we might not have the answer for everything, you know, but you know, we can only control you know, what we do in our actions and our reactions. That's all we can really control. Yes, Jim.
All we can do about it is pray about it.
Pray.
Pray about it.
Pray about
You know, he has the answer, and we may not get it, but it's going. You know, it's there. You know, there's somebody once said, "All you can do is all you can do, and that's enough." You know, so that's kind of where we have to be on this country.
Right.
You know, there's so many things that are against us these days.
Right.
You know, irresponsible media and journalism. Okay, they just want to sell papers, they don't want to sell.
Yeah.
You know, and things like that are really driving us. I mean, the more and more that this happens, the more and more it's driving me toward the rest.
Sorry about that, Jim. Sorry about that, Jim.
You don't need it.
Yeah, I don't need it. I have Ellis used to always say I have big lungs. And doctor confirms that I have the lungs of a thoroughbred. Yes.
Another thing that can cause stress day to day is co-workers, especially people that work in the organization that make unreasonable demands or that you don't really respect because of whatever reason. I feel like it causes a lot of stress.
Coworkers and the job in general, like I said, can really put a lot of stress on you if you allow it to. Because you're dealing with, especially in my area, I deal with 10 adults, most of them older than me. And I have to treat them sometimes like children. You have to coddle some of them. And either you come hard to someone and they totally shut down and I have to build it back up and to get them into because it's sensitive. It's a sensitive issue, you know, and you want to do good. You want them to succeed, but they're making it very difficult on you. And, you know, it's a balance. I've not perfected it. I really have not. I struggle with that all the time. And, you know, because they have different personalities you have to deal with. And some can take it, some cannot. If you don't talk to them in a certain way, they're not going to respond. And that takes years to figure out who's who and what's what and what you can't and can't do. But that's a lot to deal with. And sometimes they do things on purpose to make your life miserable. And they want to see you break and they want to see the holy man be unholy. And they have caught me many times being unholy. And I'm gonna admit it. It's because they love to push. But you gotta understand who's behind all that. You know, Satan's behind everything. Satan's behind all these things that he wants to break the man of God down. You know, sometimes you allow him to do it. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you battle it because it's wherever you're focusing on. If you're focusing on what is the issues and these things that are going around you that sometimes you cannot control, then you fall into these holes. And that's where we need to be careful. So all these things that we deal with on a daily basis that's around us, like we said, can bring out stress, it can bring out pressure, it can bring out anxiety, worries, all these things. And when you combine all these things together, like I said, it can bring us into a very low point in our life, very down. And we don't want to be in that area, but sometimes it happens because all we're doing is focusing on the negative things, the bad things that are happening to us and around us. You know, you've mentioned a couple of things that we have no control of. Why dwell on that if we have no control over it? But I've seen it with my own eyes. They worry about things they can't do nothing about. Like my son's biggest issue was thinking about future. Here's your 13 or whatever age you are. He's almost 18 now, but always worrying about the next day, the future, 5 years from now. I'm like, dude, why are you worrying about this? You can't even get through the day right now because all you're doing is worrying about years from now. You're worrying about college and you're not even in high school yet. Okay? You're worrying about a job and you're not even legalized to work yet. So why worry about these things? But that's the thing that drove him mad. Is that he always worried about stuff that, down the line. Do we fall into that? Do we fall into worrying about things that we have no control of, like the future? You mentioned retirement. We have some little bit of control of that and sense of how we save for retirement. But really, honestly, do we really have control of that? No, we really don't. Because first of all, we're not even guaranteed that we're going to get to that age to retire to even enjoy all these things that we're storing aside, right? Not just saying let's be irresponsible, not store anything aside. That's not my point. But what are we doing? Are we worrying about that? Who's here is worrying about retirement? Good, no one. That's a Bruce.
Being the only one, but I do. But people who know me know I worry about just about everything, and it's my biggest thorn in the flesh. All of this talking to me constantly, and I hear the words. Yes, I understand that, but I have always been, and probably always will be, somebody that feels like it is up to me to fix whatever the situation. And all that does is slap God in the face because I am putting myself higher than Him, thinking that I know better, more than even worrying about it is going to do good.
Right.
It's my nature. I fight it daily. I told Paul the other day, it's like, with me, sometimes it's like telling an anorexic that they're very thin and they don't need to hurt themselves. It's just something that's about me. I understand it, but
That's the way you're wired.
yeah, but I don't want to use that as an excuse.
No.
It's still sinful. I understand that, but I have to stop this feeling that it's up to me to solve the problems of the world, solve the problems of my children, solve the problems of my finances. I've got to trust in God, and God has come through every single time in my entire life. And I still haven't learned my lesson.
And it's good that you even mentioned that you say that God has come through every single time of your life, and you still admit to yourself that here God is doing exactly what He says He's going to do, and here am I fighting that same exact thing. So it's easy to read the words and say these things to each other. Like, all right, don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's easy, but if you're someone like Bruce or someone who is chemically wired this way, that just I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, that they just constantly worry about these things. And we just need to lighten the load, take the burden off one another, and say, you know what? We have to trust in the Lord. Maria.
That's what I was thinking, because I used to worry more about the future than I do now, because God will take care of me. And I'm kind of coming to terms with that. Not that I don't worry as much, but sometimes I think of the past, that's sometimes stresses me out, and the only being that helps me is to focus on Jesus. When I focus on him, then I have to just think about today. This is what I'm given today. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, and the past is done. So I need to focus on what today. This is where I'm living right now.
I think you put any energy, any effort on focusing on anything, it's where it's going to drive your mood or drive your thought, your attitude. You know, if you're dwelling on something from the past that's bad, and you're constantly thinking about something that happened many years ago, and probably shifted you and made you to what you are now, it can get kind of depressive. You know, I always take the opposite effect, because I talk to my brother. Me and my older brother are pretty close. It's like pretty close compared to my older brother. And he always says this, you know, he always says, man, look where we were and what we dealt with, and look at where we're at now. And I said, yeah, you know what? We could have so folded back then for the cards that were dealt to us. We had every right to fold, because there was three of us, three different fathers. None of the fathers were there. So it was just us three and my mother. And I hold a lot of grudges towards my mother when I was younger. You don't realize it until you're older and you have kids on your own. She did the best she possibly could. She was an uneducated woman. She worked hard, and she had to deal with three hard-headed boys. And when I mean hard-headed boys, we were always at each other's throats. And I get upset with my kids down, you know, because they're always at each other. I'm like, where did I see this before? Hey, we used to do this too. We used to drive my mother insane. My mom used to work at night, and then she'd come home in the morning with a migraine headache. And then here we are wrestling and making all kind of noise and recording it, acting like we're the WWF. And my mom used to get so upset. But we were in a broken home and poverty, and we still made it all right. And my brother's doing very well. I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. And I can see that God had his hand in my life. If I sit there and analyze what happened, where was I at this moment, how I avoided this at this moment, I'm like, wow, God had a plan for me. You know, my brother has his anxiety issues. I think I'm the only one that doesn't really have anxiety in my family, because, you know, I kind of like, I don't know how to put it. I'm not the worrisome type. You know, when something's out of my control, there's nothing I really can do about it. I really don't care. You know, I've used when Jesus was on the boat and the waves were crashing and everything was rocking, he went to sleep. And the other guys were freaking out. But Jesus is sleeping. And they woke him up, and Jesus says, why are you worrying about these things? And then he tells the waves to peace, be still, and that was the point of that story. It's like, why are you worrying about these things? It's, you know, but that's the way I am. When things get a little rough, I tend to like go to sleep and then wake up, and I feel a lot better. Jim, you had
Yeah, just what Maria said, just reminded me, I taught for 16 years, high school, inner city.
Oh.
And, you know, we had our days in COVID. There's one thing that I gave the kids, it was just a little short poem that really simply said, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery. But today is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what happened yesterday, leave it. Remember it, but leave it. You know, learn from it.
Right.
You know, and tomorrow we can't do anything about it until it gets you. Okay, so let's focus on where we are right now, and let's take this gift and use it to the best that we can.
Right. Agreed. Let's open our Bibles to Matthew chapter 6. And Jesus says it very clearly in Matthew chapter 6 on how we should be. I know we've read this scripture tons of times. And this is what Jesus deals with worrying. In verse 25, it reads, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you eat or drink, about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more important than food, and the body more important than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns. Yet our heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to his life? Do you know? Those who constantly worry, constantly stress about things like that, actually shorten their life."
I know that for sure. I had a heart attack 3 years ago.
So, thank God you're still here, Bruce.
Yeah.
So you can actually shorten your life by adding all this undue pressure on yourself and stressing your heart out because you're worrying about all these things. And Jesus is telling you who, by worrying, can add a single hour of life to himself. You can't. So Jesus is telling you, don't worry about these things, what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear. Don't worry about where you're going to be at in 20 years. Don't worry about it. And he says in verse 28, "Why do you worry about clothes? See how the lilies of the field grow? They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you? O you of little faith. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Let's not worry, let's deal with today. Tomorrow is another day. It's going to have its own problems. It's going to actually, might be better, but let's just deal with today. Let's not worry about none of these things. So what is Jesus telling us to do? Focus on what? What's that? Today. And also, what do he wants us to do? He wants us to seek what? His kingdom. It says, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all the things that you need, that you worry about, what you're going to eat, where you're going to live, clothes you're going to have, all these things will be added to you. God will take care of his own, right? He will take care of his own. He takes care, just like he said, the lilies, he dresses them, makes them beautiful. You are worth more than grass, than flowers, than all these things. You just have to trust in him. So what you need to be doing is not worrying, but focusing on God's things. When you focus on God's things, all them other things don't become, you just don't understand how I used to think about when I was younger and made things important that right now they're just not important at all. I used to dream about these things. I have to do this, do that, do this, do that. And once you do them, so what? It's not important anymore. It's not important. What's important to us now is each other and what we're doing for God's kingdom. But
Yeah, I think that there is a difference too between worrying and planning.
yes,
So I think that whereas we definitely don't need to worry too much about tomorrow, it doesn't equate to then not planning for tomorrow. So, and I think that we can see that in Jesus' teaching too. In Luke 14, he talks about considering the cost of discipleship It talks about, who among you would start to build a building without considering the cost.
Mhm.
Because if you run out of money before you finish, everyone's going to laugh at you.
Right.
Or the king, he says that considers whether he can go into battle with 10,000 soldiers against an army of 20,000. So I think that it is also a biblical concept that, you've got to look over the horizon beyond just the immediate. But I think you can do that through actions today without worrying about tomorrow. So it's a fine line, but I think that worry versus concern is two different things.
Yes.
When we ask for wisdom, God wants us to build things in a godly way, and asking for wisdom is very important. And also, when we seek God's kingdom first, and when that means that we're very close to God, and we'll handle whatever is in our path in a godly way. So we do obey God, and He will show us the way. Does not mean that everything will be okay, but He will help us deal with the things and overcome them, or, they might be there, the problems might be there all the time, but it's in a godly way that we handle and our attitude changes, and we stay close to God.
Right. And if you ever study the book of Proverbs, so many lessons on how to deal with things, and especially finances. If you ever have problems with finances, Proverbs is a good book to study, and it would help you a lot. But you're right. There is a fine line between planning and worrying and stuff like that. I agree, 100%. Cindy?
Planning is great. And where I get caught up is the worry and what ifs. What if this doesn't happen? What if this doesn't happen? And I have to kind of say, okay, God, you're in control. So stop it. But I have to constantly in my head sit there and say, I can't deal with that part. I have to leave it to God. And so many times I've gotten up and saying, okay, let me think about this. And I'm like, oh God, I know, I gave it to you. I'm going to go back to that. But you can get your plan. You can ask for God's wisdom and knowledge of making the right decisions and then dealing with those decisions in a Christ-like manner.
I personally like to hold God accountable in the sense that the Bible teaches you to trust in the Lord, trust in His wisdom, trust in His understanding, and all that, right? Then you have your wise self that you have to deal with, your wisdom. So I kind of like take the decision off my hands a lot. In the Bible, you should cast lots. So what I do is, here's the problem. Lord, here's the problem. If you want this to be, I'm going to know it's a yes or a no by you allowing it to be. So I put it kind of in his court and say, listen, Lord, I am up for deaconship. Do you want me to be one? If you don't want me to be one, have someone come out and tell me that I should not be one and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I kind of left that decision up to him. I want him to, let me not say make all the choices in my life, but be involved in the choices of my life. So if God was not happy with that decision, He would have made it known to me. In any way He would make it known, right? I believe that because I have faith in God. So, no, some of us don't do that. Some of us like to lean on our own understanding and like to, analyze it. Not me. That's not my style, never would be. It just takes too much thinking, and I don't want to, get too involved in that. But I know that this is it's a life-changing decision, but I'm already involved in God's work. So, we all have a responsibility to the Lord. No title, no anything's going to change that. We still have to do the Lord's will. So, I don't worry too much about things like that. Let us go to Proverbs chapter 12. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 25. So if you see a brother or sister who's dealing with a lot of things, and sometimes they're quiet, I've been accused of being one of the most antisocial people in the world. And I agree. I struggle with that. I hate to admit this, but I had a friend come over. You know, he always constantly brings it up too. It was Thanksgiving Day. So I asked a friend of mine to make sweet potato casserole. His wife does a great sweet potato casserole, right? And I said, in exchange for the sweet potato casserole, my wife is going to make an almond cake, which is very delicious with coffee. So he comes to my house. It's Thanksgiving Day, remember that. We're off from work. So he comes to my house, drops it off, and he stands there, and he wants to conversate. Anybody who knows me, I don't do that. We made a deal, drop it off, and we'll make the exchange. So he's standing by my door. Turkey's in the oven, smells in the air. I'm like, this dude is not leaving. So I'm scratching my head, and I'm like, opening the refrigerator, getting a drink, offer him a drink. He's just standing there, he's talking. I'm getting a little antsy. I knock on the refrigerator, and I get closer to him. And he goes like this. I hate this. Believe me, I hate it. I felt so bad that I did it. I keep creeping him towards the door. And he's looking at me with the corner of his eye, and he's like this. It got so close. He's jammed up against the door, and I'm right up on him. And he's like this. All right, I'll go. And he left, and I felt so bad. And he always brings it up to me. He says, you remember that day? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, man. That's just not the way I am. But, you know, I apologize for it. But that's one of my struggles. Anyway, weird story. But that actually happened. Very antisocial. I struggle with that. That's one of my biggest struggles. Don't like too much conversation unless it's Bible related. I love that conversation. It's a subject that I'm very good at. Not a great reader of it, but it's amazing how I can retain information about the Bible that happened years ago. Like I taught the teens years ago with dealing with look at that, blocked right off. That's how good my memory is. The book of Job, my favorite book. I can remember the whole entire story, how things broke down, and probably have never read it ever since that time at the teen class. But it'll never go away from my brain. That's just something of interest like that sticks to me. But anyway, let's go to Proverbs chapter 12, verse 25. And we're almost done here, so let me try to get this done here. Verse 25 reads, an anxious heart weighs a man down, but a kind word cheers him up. Anxiety brings you down. Constant worry brings you down. The heart brings you down. The only way to get that up, get your mind right, get you straightened out, is by someone encouraging you, giving you good words. That'll bring you up. And if we constantly do that with each other, which the Bible tells us to do, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11, it says, encourage one another. Encourage one another. And Hebrews 10:25 also says that. So we constantly getting good vibes, getting good words from each other, because we need that. Because some of us might be in a down state in our life. We don't know that. Some of us might be worrying about something right now. Very down. Very, very, very down. And the encouragement of a brother or sister, good words that are given to them, can lift them back up. But it's your responsibility, the person that is down. Hear me. It is your responsibility to retrain and renew your mind and focus on the good things that the Lord has done for us. I had so many scriptures. See, Bruce, this is what happens. I had so many scriptures written down, and you don't even get to them. Because you start rambling on, I'm talking about Thanksgiving Day. See, this was what happens. But I'm going to leave you guys with this. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. It is your responsibility, yours and yours alone, to cast your burdens upon Jesus Christ. And Jesus wants you to do so. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 says, and this is Jesus speaking, it reads, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Cast all your worries upon Christ, and he will give you rest. It is your responsibility, all of our responsibility, to do that, to cast our worries and the things that are burdening us down and put it on Christ's lap. And then we deal with his things, and he says they're light and not so burdensome. My burden is light, and he will give you rest for your souls. And that's what I want. I want peace. If you come to my house, I like quiet. It's kind of hard with 3 children, really hard, especially with a 2-year-old who likes to throw things and slap people around. I like peace. You know, I constantly tell these kids, quiet. I want quiet. I want quiet because I like to be in a peaceful state. But it's hard. So that's when you cast your burdens upon Jesus. The first thing that comes to mind is, "Oh my Lord, please help me. These kids are driving me insane." But then you see a smile on their face. They'll give you a hug, and things go away. Because and when you analyze children, you can see a lot of God in them. Because they're perfect. They're innocent. All right, last thing. Time has left us. A little thing here from a very wise person. It says, "Sometimes I go about pitying myself, and all the while I am being carried across the sky by beautiful clouds." Stop dwelling about the things that are happening to you in this world. Look around you. God is everywhere. God is in your brothers and sisters. God is the creation. Stop pitying yourself. Stop beating yourself up, and start thinking about the good that God has done for you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I thought that, I was going to blow through this, and I really did. Small group, but great participation. Thanks, guys.